I want to thank, before I start, Gili Artal and Adi Moreno for including me, because as Yuval presented me, I'm a visual culture researcher, not a queer and LGBT researcher. So I feel not quite at home, but I hope that I'll be clear enough and relevant to this discussion. So on May 13, 2018, Israeli performer Netta Barzilai won the Eurovision. A day after a fatal confrontation occurred between the Israeli army and Palestinians along the Gaza fence. 55 people were killed and more than 2,000 others were injured. The two events may have produced a split screen, but the celebration obscured and designed the event as one, a picture of victory. On Netta's return to Israel a day after the killing, thousands of people dancing at Rabin Square to her winning song, Toy. The picture from the center of Tel Aviv expressed the sensation that Israeli felt. Her unique personality and musical talent captured the heart of many, and the joy of her triumph crossed competing political groups. Netta was embraced with love. People saw her as an example of a woman that does not apologize for being different. After her winning on the first place, she said, "Thank you so much for choosing different. Thank you so much for accepting differences between us." The celebration of differences marked the limits of the body acceptance. The collective joy and love for Netta reinforced the feeling of national belonging. In the same week, Israeli national holiday of Jerusalem Day was celebrated. The controversial move of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem was implemented. What started in March 30 as the Gazan Great March of Return escalated to lethal confrontation. While people were partying in the middle of Tel Aviv, naming Netta Malka, Queen in Hebrew, and Kapara, sweetheart in slang, Palestinians at Gaza mourned their beloved ones. In this presentation, I seek to reframe the events and restore the split screen by analyzing the political figuration of the victory picture. There is no question that the Palestinians were the defeated other in the picture from the square. My question is how the differenceness, as Netta represented, and the otherness of the Palestinian meet through the performance of the unfamiliar body. I start with the concept of iconic image in the picture of victory. There were many photographs documenting the celebration, yet there is no doubt that they signaled one victory. Whereas Palestinians from the start of the demonstration attempt to attain a memorable image had less success. Netta's acceptance is linked to the LGBT and camp culture associated with the Eurovision. Adding to the growing scholarship on homonationalism, in regard to the Israel-Palestine conflict, I argue that Netta's wide reception by the Israeli public is based on politics of emotion, one that revolves around the notion of love. Following Sarah Ahmed, I show how love framed Netta's event as a picture of victory and misframed the demonstration in Gaza. I addressed in the end another Palestinian demonstration photographs from the West Bank and Gaza and reside on the otherness that is performed in them, estranging their body appearance through the fantasy and playfulness. Pictures of victory are performance of aesthetics in service of politics. For example, these two photographs express the feeling of elevation of the Israeli society and relief of war's ending. What we see is the male human body placed in the center, which represents national body and the place the national achievements. In Netta's picture, the body is that of a woman in the center of Tel Aviv, and not just a body, but an unusual body. The place is not from the edge of the state's territory, a photograph that represents what we conquered, but from the heart of the city. Pictures of victory. Oh, sorry. Oh. No. So it's not in this presentation. Pictures of victory resemble iconic images. They are objects of effect in the sense that they raise different emotion. They promote collective identity, empathy, and power, particularly as they simplify an ideology. Iconic images contribute to establish a sense of who we are and who we ought to be, of belonging, also to a big and inaccessible public events. Usually, they are designed on generic convention as they capture familiar patterns. An iconic image from the confrontation along the fence with Gaza was revealed with the photograph of Amru. Seizing the moment and with the staging quality, Amru as a hero appears in a clear distinction from the smoked background. As other iconic victory images, the composition conducts the gaze up towards the brighter and clearer sky, bringing us closer to heaven. According to the Israeli publicist Nissan Shor, Western viewers and left-wing Israeli found the picture appealing for Orientalist reasons. The cinematic photograph echoed Western culture, myths, and arts, like this one or this one. Thus, Amr's image was washed and brightened, distancing it from the fanatic Muslim image. Prior to Netta's picture, there were pictures of victory from the same square. Like Netta's, they were perceived as national victories in nature, but without the political controversies that have marked most of Israel's war. In neoliberal nation society, there's a double move. The single picture of victory assists in associating people to a group, while the multiplicity encourages competition and glorifying individual achievement. Yet these victory images signify the failure of another, because victory is also always on expense of someone else that has lost. Salah Ahmed writes on the emotion of cultural practices working on the body. Emotion creates meaning and acts as social power, even if it is not always recognized as such. They are part of a set of material and discourse of the nation state. Regarding love, Ahmed asks how love works, who speaks in the name of love and in the relation to it, how the emotion of love creates social effect, and how this process of speaking in the name of love turns to power. Ahmed shows that love creates connection between people concerning an ideal. For instance, the love for Netta turned for many to be as such, a love for a woman who does not submit to social constraints. This dynamic of love opens the possibility to stick to a complex ideal regarding the state. As Ahmed argues, the state might welcome different inhabitants like Netta, and in that way it holds pluralistic humanistic ideal as long as these inhabitants are not others who threat its existence like Palestinians. Ahmed's observation helps understand how the love for Netta turned to be a political power that designed her winning as a picture of victory. From the winning of the transsexual performance Dana International, the musical event was appropriated by the LGBT community. Gad Yair writes about it, and he says, celebrating their identity symbolized that Europe stands for liberal and humanitarian ideals, while furthering the understanding of the constructedness of gender and sexuality. Netta fitted this agenda. The song promoted with the Me Too message and her non-normative female image lured the audience. Viewers were moved as she exposed her vulnerable and forward side, accepting her imperfection. In one of the interviews, she said, "It was important for me to break convention and to do history. I am amazed that women found their voices this year through this song. A lot of time I was told not to perform in wedding because I'm fat and not to wear too short skirts, but I took things in my hands, and I think that that's what I'm doing here. with this song. If I had a child person like Netta in prime time, my childhood could be simpler. As she sees herself as an artist who inspires, her artillery is well considered, emphasizes her atypical size with miniskirts and tight suits, with Japanese girlish style, Indian bride outfit, and rapper clothing. Netta exhibits a fluid persona. The different outfits are not intended to disguise her identity, but the opposite, to disclose and party herself with endless decision who to be in each context. The fluidity of her performance resembles a drag show, despite being commodified and as mainstream and commercial event. Netta endorses a steering position. Her illusionary characters are part of a practice of freedom. Distance from the urban center of Tel Aviv at Belini village, Palestinian activists protest against the Israeli separation barriers dressed as Navis. The same costume were used in Gaza. Transformation into these characters is the recognition of the parallels between the injustice suffered by the Avatar film characters and their own. Consisting of an indigenous feature, they tie their experience and the colonial fictional history. Palestinian activists show a creative resistant practice which attempts to exploit the power of a universal understanding of image in the globalized world and to stimulate in this way an interest in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Critics pointed to the circumstances where Palestinians must reach out to foreign public not through their own stories but by post-human images. Despite this critique, the activists performing as Navis spotted a potential liberation power in popular icons, fantasy, and playfulness, which connected them to global movement of resistance. Thus, the role of creativity, pleasure, and the play in urban demonstration in general, and the queer community building practice especially, is also seen in marginal community of Palestinians in the occupied territories. Hence, there is a connection, not similarity, between the politicizing of the non-normative body performance of Netta, queer activist, and the colored Palestinian. The playful approach of acting out as an image of performing an unusual body which sear emotion is not only to capture audience attention but also to picture resentment with hope. Maybe it can be called victories of hope. Thank you.